Hello everybody and welcome to the Daily Splatt for the 6th of February 2018. This date marks the 60th anniversary of an event known as the Munich Air Disaster. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, in 1958 a plane containing the Manchester United football team was attempting to take off from Munich airport to return to Manchester after a European tie. The conditions were abysmal. It was very, very cold, lots of snow, and quite frankly, the conditions were not conducive to good flying. The plane attempted to take off several times. The third time that it did, the pilot lost control of the vehicle and it crashed and killed a fair few people. It killed quite a few players who were on the team. It looked as though it was potentially even going to finish off the manager, Sir Matt Busby, just plain Matt Busby at that time. Fortunately, he survived. But 8 players passed away, journalists were killed, club officials, and it was disastrous, particularly because at that time in the 1950s, Manchester United weren't the massive global brand which they are today. I mean, very few football teams were that well known. I mean, obviously Real Madrid were very successful in Europe. Manchester United were making a name for themselves, having put together this team of wonderful youth players. But the crash unfortunately killed a fair few of them. Most famously Duncan Edwards, who, had he lived beyond the 21 years that he managed, would have potentially gone on to have been the best footballer produced by the nation of England in the 20th century, which is saying something. So obviously it's 60 years on. It's still very present for a lot of people in Manchester. Being from there myself, it's one of those stories that you hear about and you're told growing up. The fact that we still have quite a few members from the survivors, because obviously the players who survived were all in their 20s, they'd be, or even younger, teenagers, they're still around in their 70s and 80s. Obviously Bobby Charlton is perhaps the most well known. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. Obviously it's, as a Manchester United fan, it's one of those things that you know about, and it's from far before my time. It happened 40 plus years before I was 30 plus years before I was born. I just realised I'm not as young as I thought I was, but still, it's it's one of those things which obviously you always think about, but because it's a decade, it's the 60th anniversary of the event. It's just one of those things that becomes, I guess, slightly more pertinent to everyone who thinks about it. So if there are people out there who don't know about the Munich Air Disaster, there are lots of great resources for you to go and look it up. There's a really excellent film that was done in 2011, which is simply called United, which is very, very well done. It stars Dougray Scott, who plays Matt Busby, and David Tennant is actually in it as well. He plays the United assistant manager, Jimmy Murphy, the person who was in charge of keeping the club going, essentially, in the immediate aftermath. And it's a really well put together film, which you don't necessarily have to have an interest in the football side of things. It is just a really well put together British film, which I'd say is worth watching. And of course, if you are a United fan, I think it's a good one to watch as well. But yeah, just some reflections on that. It's just one of those things, it's one of those sort of communal things, and it's not so much about being a supporter of a particular club. It's more about being from the area, being connected, even though I live on the other side of the world. It's just one of those things that you think about and consider, regardless of which team you support. There's lots of lovely tributes that come in from people who support Manchester City or other local clubs in the area in the northwest. Places like Burnley and Bolton. Even dreaded rivals such as Liverpool. It's one of those things that people generally respect and consider. Anyway, that's all for today, and I'll speak to you all tomorrow. Until then, bye bye.